Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we help non-techs build better tech. Today, I have the pleasure of chatting to Jess Dahlberg, founder of the Get Scale Up Ready program. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you very much.
Would you care to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and what the Get Scale Up Ready program is?
Sure. I guess it really comes from something that started a very long time ago, which is this, in a sense, within me of needing to or wanting to really, I guess, realize my own potential. I was born and raised in Sweden, and in my late teens, a friend of mine, he had been in New Zealand, and he was showing all these amazing photos and everything of New Zealand and the scenery and everything. And I thought, wow, I'd love to go over there. And so I saved money madly and went over there and had a wonderful time, met some amazing people, and also stopped over in Australia on the way through. When I got home, I remember this vividly because I was standing in the food shop in the queue waiting to be served, and all I could hear around me were people complaining about nitty-gritty things that really didn't matter. And for me, it was like one of those moments where I thought, for me to really step into who I am, I've got to be somewhere else. And it kind of triggered me, and I guess I was inspired because I'd just come back, and I was really inspired by particularly Australia and New Zealand as well, but particularly Australia. I felt a real affinity, and I thought, no, I'm going to go back and just see what happens. And so I again started to save madly and bought a one-way ticket to New Zealand with a stopover in Australia, and never left. In that time, I met my husband, and again, it's kind of as I met my husband, and we decided to not have 2 kids, but to have 4 kids, and we had a wonderful time raising the kids and so forth. But after about 27 years of marriage, he decided that he wanted a new wife, and so we parted ways. And you know, divorce is a difficult time, but for me, there was an aspect of it as well as wow, here is another opportunity for me to create something, to make something that is completely different to what I've had before. I've been in the corporate environment, and I was feeling that it wasn't really my place. I was, coming up with ideas, and there just wasn't that the hunger for wanting to really improve. And specifically, I was working with people and performance and so forth. And so I thought, wow, here's an opportunity. And so I ended up, a friend of mine suggested, oh, you should have a look at this high performance program. And I actually went through that high performance program myself, and it really resonated with me, and it really helped me move forward in what I was doing. There was a lot of things that I had to kind of let go of and reestablish myself as a single woman, and reestablishing my life, really. And so after I finished that, I thought, wow, this is perfect. This is actually what I would love to do. So I went over to the States and got certified as a certified high performance coach with the High Performance Institute. And came back to Australia, and then started my business. And this was in 2018. And so I was real hunger for going, like, I want to work with people who are on a mission, people who are really there for wanting to make a difference in the world. And I guess it must have been that energy that sort of had founders and business owners being attracted to me. And of course, I was mainly on LinkedIn, and of course that's the audience there. And as I started coaching and working with founders, and there was a lot of tech founders, it was everything, but there was definitely a tendency towards tech founders. I found that, as I was working with them on their performance, and they were really, open to learn and very coachable. But they all often share with me the issues that they were having in their startup or in their business. And 90% of the time, those issues had to do with the people in the business. And it wasn't because they didn't, the founders are very caring about the people. They really believe in their people and supportive of the people. But leading people kind of wasn't really the thing that they stepped into actually wanting to do. It was kind of just,
Definitely not.
yeah, if I'm going to build my product, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to bring some people to help me along with that. And founders are typically really good at attracting those people. But after that, they kind of start to get a bit distracted because all they want is to get this product out and make a difference in the world. And often the problems that they came to me with sort of were in two areas. It was like, I have really good people, but they don't seem to have the urgency that I need them to have because I've got a runway to meet. And, it's just, they're coming up with all ideas and they're going off on tangents and stuff. And I love that. But, I kind of need them to be focused in this direction. And so I would talk to them and given my background, given my corporate background, performance is very much what I was working on for about 15 plus years. And so I would give them some advice and say, okay, like you got this problem, do ABC, try that and you'll be fine. And of course, I'll ask them a couple of weeks later, how did you go? Like, how did it work? And they go, I've just got too busy. I kind of didn't get there. And so I realized at that point that, hey, there is a need here, particularly for that in that startup environment where founders don't have that support, like they don't have the guidance necessarily. They might have mentors, perhaps as part of an accelerator program or mentors just in their life. But mentors is kind of, it's not easy to implement. You need kind of help with implementing something that you feel reasonably assured it's going to work, otherwise you don't want to put that effort towards it. And so I created this program, which was something that I took from my background. I thought this will be perfect. This is just honing in on the 4 kind of principles of how to drive performance and growth in a startup. Here are people that are really hungry for growth. They're going to, step into this and make it work. And so you don't want any fluff. You kind of just want exactly the thing that's going to work. And that's how the Get Scale Up Ready program was essentially born. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years.
It's quite a journey you've been on.
Yeah. And it's been fantastic. Like I've been working with some amazing founders, founders that are, it's this, I really feel that they're very much, they're so driven and everything, but very heart-based, very sort of in with both feet. And I love that.
Yeah, they're different. They're driven by different things. And then they're different breed. Certain founders, I would say. Are you working with more tech founders or non-tech?
Mainly tech founders seems to be. I've worked across services as well, but it seems that there is more of a hunger with tech founders. And tech founders, and even if they're not from a tech background, but they're in that tech environment, seem to have this understanding that continuous learning and trying different things is really important. It's what's going to be kind of the foundation for my success, and so that makes them really open. And I find this with service-based founders too. So don't get it's there as well, but definitely. And I think it's probably driven by the fact that they have there might be some funding, and you've got to kind of maximize that funding. And when you show up for board meetings with the investors, like you want to be able to say, look, I really made headway with what we have. And what we have is really the people, and that's kind of where I'm focusing in on.
Yeah, in that sort of environment where you've got investors and you're definitely getting those runs on the board, it helps you push along and raise more funds as you go along. Have you noticed what I'll do before I jump into the founder questions, just what drew you to Australia? You said you were sort of attracted or fascinated by that stopover initially, and then you went home, something just happened and you had to come back. What was it?
I don't know, Anthony. I think maybe, former life or something. I don't know. It's like, because I remember it so vividly. Yeah, like I was in the city And I was in my late teens. I would have been about 19. So this is a really long time ago. And I would have been about 19. I thought, people are talking about this place. You can get a ferry to this place called Manly, and it's close to a beach. And I'm very much an ocean person. I thought, that sounds interesting. And so I got on the ferry. And I still remember this, a ferry pulling up and me getting off and walking up through Corso, which is a beautiful walkway, public walkway through Manly. And I just had this sense of home. I don't know, I can't explain it. And funnily enough, it was only another couple of years after that I was living in Manly. It just had a feeling of home.
Oh, it just feels right. You can't argue with that.
That's right. No, particularly, I think it's important through our, as in all of our different ages and sort of age stages, but certainly as a teenager, I was, intuition was kind of very strong. It's like, yeah, this just feels right. And then, of course, when I came back,
I was going to say, yeah, some things are hard to put a finger on, but you just know when it's the way it should be, that intuition or that gut feeling, as people say.
yeah. And I've been here ever since, which is a long time now.
It's been quite a journey from what you explained just then. So if we move over to, say, those tech startups that you work with, do you see a large difference between the non-tech background and the tech background? So I'm guessing that you'll have founders who have been in a space or an industry, have some background about probably the peripheral of what the tech is, and then they want to build a product. Then you'll have the ones that are probably engineers or developers who have a product and just want to start building it straight away because they know how.
Yeah, it's funny, like I have, clients sort of in both areas. And, I think what they have, obviously what they have in common is they both have this drive for, okay, if I'm going to make this thing sort of, or solve this problem, I need to use tech. So even if I don't have the background, I'm going to use tech. And founders, the typical kind of makeup of a founder is like, well, it doesn't really matter if I know tech or not. I'll just figure it out, or I'll get people around me to help me. That's kind of how it all works, right? And so, and then as they operate, I guess it is harder for the tech founder when it comes to perhaps knowing what is progress and what's not progress, and why is this taking so long? And of course, the tech people will say, well, this is a process that we've got to go through. We can't shortcut this, and and we have to set it up right, otherwise we'll have all these problems. And later on, and the founders is like, but I just want it out there. And just make it just work. This part works, sort of thing. So I think whereas a tech founder has probably a lot more appreciation of that, but on the other hand, can get stuck in that. Okay, let's refine and make it better and better and better, and not feeling that it's ever sort of enough to go that next level, because they have that much deeper understanding.
And they'll probably just keep working on it if you don't have someone to then help them stop at a point where this is enough to get to the market or to launch and test your idea, rather than just keep building forever. I think that's a problem engineers or developers would end up having, is because they can do it. They will just keep constantly tweak.
Yeah. But the problem is sometimes with that too is like the people in the business, in the startup, sometimes it's like, how long is a piece of string? Like when are we at a point where we've actually succeeded? As in, even if it's a sort of a minor success, like are we there yet? And what does finished, at this stage, what does that look like? And I often hear that question is like, because at that point we would like to make sure that we celebrate and feel that we've actually made progress. We've done something great and we're on track. Whereas if it's just kind of, iteration and, or, in terms of the tech founders, so further iterations, or what I've seen on the non-tech founder side is like, because they're so far ahead and they can see so much more, they go, well, okay, let's add this and let's add this and let's add this. And then, and the people are kind of going, can't keep up.
Hard to keep up with that. Yeah.
So I think it's a really fine balance of understanding, and so having, I guess, a a non-tech founder with a tech sort of co-founder or something like that is obviously really important so that you can get the balance right.
I think we've definitely seen that same dynamic where there's always new ideas, whether one's going to help you drive revenue or reach out to a potential opportunity. It may not go anywhere, but it needs to be there so we can have this conversation. And then there's the teams trying to keep up and then pivoting constantly. So there definitely needs to be that balance to push and pull and drive that structure. But I think touching upon that, celebrating the wins, it's probably something we don't do too much on our end, and it's just, all right, heads down and just keep going. But I think that is something you probably need to put a bit more focus on, and then celebrating those wins at least lets you define those milestones where things have happened, where you wouldn't normally put those goalposts down in the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why, like in the Get Scale Up Ready program, where we sort of focus on that performance or the productivity piece on one side, but the other side is the culture, and the culture is very much a part of the culture is celebration. It's like, how do we operate together through the highs and lows when it's tough? Like, how do we look after each other? How do we make sure that we get through that so that we can keep going? Because we all know, like, it's going to be tough. We know that it's not going to be easy, and that's for any business. And so how do we agree that we're going to support each other in that time? And equally, like, if something goes wrong, like, how do we respond to that? And how do we work together? And then, of course, when when we have achieved something, is it that celebration? Are we taking that time for saying, hey, we've gotten to this point, and there's a lot more, but let's feel really good about this now.
Have you found that when people sort of come to you and they're either the non-tech or the tech founder, that they don't understand that there's the ups and downs, or there's all the hard work at times, and they think, all right, you hear about all these overnight successes, but you don't hear about the 20 years of effort before?
Yeah, I mean, I worked for a founder, for example, who started and failed at, over 30 businesses before he sort of made it. So he really understood the fact that, it takes a lot of hard work and so forth. But even as he sort of pivoted into the tech space, that urgency is, I think it's just a founder thing. Like, there is that urgency. We know standing still or going slow is an uncomfortable space. It's just, and anyone in business knows, like, you have to, if you're not moving forward, you are in essence moving backwards, and that's not healthy. And so I think it's just, that, as I mentioned before, like, when the founders come to me and say, like, I have great people, but they're just not moving fast enough, or they keep going off on tangents. Like, how do I bring them back to point to make sure in a way that doesn't break the culture that I feel that we have and that we've worked on establishing? And so the simple answer to that is simply, when you, if you have a reasonably clear roadmap, and surprisingly, a lot of founders don't have a real kind of roadmap. And when I say roadmap, it doesn't have to be bells and whistles. It can literally just be some dot points, but it's something that's pointing to the future of, this is where the product needs to be in at this time. These are the different features and the things that we need to have in place. I'm going to stick to that. And once you have that kind of a roadmap, and you then link people in the business to that roadmap. And by linking, I mean, say, okay, if we're going to launch these 3 to 4 new features in the next 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, that means that these things need to happen, that these things need to be created. And for those things to be created, I can't do it as a founder. Even if I'm a tech founder, I can't do it all. I'm going to have to obviously distribute that to the people. And when you distribute that to the people and say, hey, this is part of our roadmap, this is where we're going, and this is really exciting because, this is what we are working towards. And this part here is something that you are responsible for. So you might be doing, sprints and, reviews and all those things. But in terms of a high level responsibility, you're responsible for this to make sure that it actually happens. And so when you get that linking happening, and I then as a developer or someone in the business, even if it's in sales function or marketing function, say, okay, I'm responsible for that, then that's going to be my focus. And a simple thing like that, that linking and talking about like that linking in your conversations with your people just keeps people focused instead of going, okay, I'm finished with this part. Now what should I do? Well, I really think I should, have a look at this over here. And then, no, hang on a minute. This is what I'm responsible for. I've got to go and focus on that. And so I find that, yeah, it's a really good, simple way of funneling people towards this is where we're going. And of course, founders don't really, the founder's dilemma is they don't want to manage people. They're happy to lead people, but they don't want to manage people. And when you align things like this, then there's less of managing people and more of just leading. Say, hey, this is where we're going. How are you tracking on that? And what are we doing?
Yeah, it's just keeping them on the right path and not managing the small day-to-day tasks. I can get behind that.
Yeah. Because there's, in most startups, you have really good people. They might be they might be learning. They may not be fully sort of fledged in their skills and everything, but they're hungry and they're willing to learn and they're exploring and they're researching and they're doing all the right things. But even that has to have a focus. Otherwise, it's easy to be wasting time along the way.
The distractions can come fast and very fast.
Yeah. And it also gives, even as a business can say, well, hey, we said that we're going to do this roadmap and now we're coming up with all these other things. Like, which way are we going? And so it's a real great way of kind of checking in. It doesn't mean that you're locked into that. You can still say, okay, we've learned this, and so we're going to make a slight tweak. We're going to do that, but we're going to make some tweaks to it. And, that's, again, your responsibility, or we are working on that together to make that happen. So it's just about, it's not a framework. It's not locking people in, because you can't afford that in a startup. You need to have that flex always. But there's still a direction. There's still, okay, this is where we're going.
Yeah, it also adds that accountability, I guess, to everyone. So then if everyone's going in the same direction, they all feel like they're contributing to the same goal. Or if everyone's seeing everyone else do all different things, then they may feel that they're not getting anywhere, or they'll never get to that target that was set. So that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
In covering probably these few touch points you've covered, I'm not sure if they're exactly what your 4 principles are, but could you give an overview? You've probably covered some of them as we've been discussing. But what are the 4 core things that you have in your Scale Up program?
Yeah. So basically, it's, as you said, it's 4 principles. The first one is performance. And that's talking about founder performance. So as I mentioned before, I'm a certified high performance coach. And I really believe that if we as founders are going to make it through the journey, we need to make sure that we're operating in a high performing way. And, I was reading this quote from Jensen Huang, I think, who's a co-founder of NVIDIA. And he was saying, like, if I knew the pain and suffering and the challenges and the embarrassment I was going to have to go through to get to where we are now, I don't know whether I would have taken this step. And truth is, while most founders are really positive thinking, and that's really essential, we have to acknowledge that it's going to be tough, to stay focused and to, I guess, keep the mental chatter in away from fear and doubt and all that kind of stuff that crops up for all of us. And also to make sure that, like founders often like the, going off track and interested in lots of different things, but staying focused is really super important so that you can have that real productivity in your day. But also to high performance isn't just about, your performance, how you're doing, but it's also about how do I maintain my well-being. And I often speak to founders, and I have to have a little bit of a conversation with them about well-being. It's like, well, I've just got to get this feature out, and I've got to do this, and this. I don't have time to go for a run, or I don't have time to do these things. And so, like, our well-being is like, it's like a non-negotiable, because if you're not if you're not focused, if you're not high on energy, if you don't have that energy, that's it. Like, the startup really sort of stands and falls on the founder's ability to maintain that energy and to maintain that performance over the long term. And so maintaining or looking after our well-being is really important. And the other part is our relationships, to make sure that we nurture our most precious relationships, even as we go through that journey. And that can be really hard, particularly if you have kids who are wanting your time and attention and so forth, and it's really busy. And so inevitably what happens is that it creeps in and takes away sleep time from the founder. And, we can do that for a while, but if we can find high performance habits where we know how to go through all those steps without having to, with less highs and lows, then we're going to do that journey faster. So that's principle number one. Principle number two is people, and that's about creating a scale-up ready culture. So most when I talk to founders and say, so how would you describe your culture? And they say, oh, we've got a great culture. And I said, oh, awesome. So what is it? And they will say, well, people are really nice to each other, and we work well together. And I said, okay, so when I'm talking about creating a scale-up ready culture, you kind of have to know what kind of culture you have. And knowing what kind of culture you have, you actually have to ask your people, because it is your people that is living and breathing and perpetuating your culture every day. And as founders, we can get a little bit blind. And so that's why when I do this, I run a couple of workshops where we have a look at and we work with the team to actually figure out, okay, what is the culture right now? How would you describe it? And I do that through imagery, and people love it. It's a great exercise. People really get to know each other in a whole different way. And then we do a second workshop where we talk about, okay, now you know what your culture is. You can actually describe it with words, with attributes, like a persona. And now you have to decide whether or not is this the kind of culture that's going to get you to that next level. Let's say, okay, maybe now you're making 500 in revenue, 500,000 in revenue, but you want to go to 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, whatever. Is this culture going to get you there? If you operate together in this way, is that going to get you there? And if the answer is maybe not, then we actually go and we do a second workshop where we actually define, okay, what kind of culture do we need to have if we're going to go on that scale-up journey that is going to support us, that's going to make sure that we operate together in the least friction, way that we can, or in a frictionless way that we can, that we're supporting and driving and moving forward in a positive way. The next one is potential, which is about that linking that I spoke to you about before. Okay, here's the people, here's a roadmap, make the link so that people are focused in that one direction. And then the final one is what I call peak, which is how to get to the peak of the mountain. And that's about the founder learning how to actually lead a scale-up. So lead their people through the scale-up. Not lead the business so much, but lead the people through the scale-up. To make sure that you actually get there through the highs and lows.
Do you find that peak one is maybe the most challenging for probably most founders, I'll say, not some, just from experience with, if they're all techie based and engineers, developers, they're not necessarily people as a generalization?
To be honest with you, no, not at all, because techie founders also, there's a real sensitivity and while they might show it in different ways, there's definitely an affinity with people there. That's how I see it anyway, and the experience that I've had. And that leadership program is very different to what you would normally see in an MBA program or anything like that. It really goes down, okay, if I'm showing up for my people today, what is it that we need? It actually works on what's called the 6 E's. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but there's encouragement, empowering, envisioning. It's those types of things. And it's very practical to go, okay, well, I feel that the team is I'm going to have to push them. So I'm going to have to really focus on, okay, from a leadership perspective, I've got to encourage people now. That's what they need right now. So when founders learn what to look out for and which one to kind of these leadership strategies to pull from at different times, that is the difference. Again, it's very pragmatic, it's a very practical way of operating. And that's why it works.
I'm sure it's just getting that education and understanding what tools are available to solve the problem that you're facing, which is similar to everything. As long as you know what you can do, then you can try and do it and learn from the mistakes and figure out how to improve them the next time something happens.
Yeah, and also too because it is essentially the performance and peak is the leadership is essentially coaching programs. You actually get to learn how to do it your way. We're all different. We all have different talents, all different ways of operating, and so when you learn how to do those things your way, then as an outcome of that, you get your own sort of personal roadmap that you can kind of go back to say, oh God, can't quite remember, what was it? Oh yeah, it was this one, and so it becomes a very personal playbook. That you can keep building on, like you say. And I tried that worked, but that didn't work, so I can tweak it next time. So I've learned something here, and it's an ongoing learning experience.
I can definitely see the value there for a startup and understanding how to build that sustainable model and get everyone following the same path and driving everyone forward. So I understand the value there and how that can help with everyone.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, I was thinking about the topic of, because I know that a lot of founders obviously have mentors, investors that are helping them and giving them advice and so forth, which is super important. And just thinking about the difference between mentoring and coaching. In fact, I've just become a mentor with Mayfly Ventures, and I love that. But it's mentoring. You can kind of tell people, okay, this is what you got to do, and this is how you can do it. Whereas coaching is like, this is what you got to do, and this is how you're going to do it your way. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, that is a difference. The mentors just say something, and then you're up to your own devices. They don't advise you how you will do it in your way to move forward.
Yeah, because we're all different. We all have different talents, different skills, and also things that we find hard, right? Then, like standing up and encouraging people, I feel like a fool, like I just, put me up in front of the investors or doing a pitch, I'm there, no problem. But doing that in front of my staff, I kind of feel like, well, we work so closely together, it doesn't feel right. And I say, well, this is your role. This is what you need to do. You need to be that energy because they need you in that way.
Yeah, you can't just be the one-sided founder. You're there to cover all aspects. You're the founder. You're leading everything.
Yeah, that's right.
Jess, it's been a pleasure to speak to you today and understand a bit more about your Scale Up program. I'm sure there's definitely people out there who haven't met you, but would definitely benefit from going through your program and understanding those 4 principles and implementing that in their journey. If anyone wants to find out a bit more information, how can they do that?
So I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and a lot of I guess my background and what I've done in the past, and reviews and recommendations and things like that is all there. And of course, I have my website as well, which is jessdahlberg.com. And but on LinkedIn, and there's other tools on LinkedIn. Like I created a quiz, for example, for founders to fill out to see how scale up ready they are and things like that. So I think LinkedIn is a really great place for the website.
Not a problem, and we'll put those links in the show notes. And once again, Jess, thank you for your time, and thanks for coming on the episode today.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's been a pleasure.